Oh, this is going to be good. From managing your bio-identity to printing organs with machines, the workforce as we know it is set to change in a radical way.
Yeah, today we're revealing the new jobs our kids will be doing in the future that we've never even heard of.
Yeah, here with more is futurist Michael McQueen. Great to have you on the show, Michael. 3D printers are not new. They've been around for a little while, but what careers will our kids be able to make out of these? Because it seems like they're doing more and more.
Yeah, so 3D printers have been around for decades, but we've seen them mainly in manufacturing, sort of very crude, rudimentary things. But where it's moving right now is in the medical space in some cool ways. So bioprinting, so printing of, for instance, parts of our body, organs, tissues. A really cool thing that was launched recently from the University of Toronto was actually a handheld 3D printer for skin grafts, and it uses the stem cells of the patient, so there's no concern for rejection. And so it's like the brave new frontier of medical.
Okay, so we need to put our kids into engineering, that sort of... Is that
be a smart place to be, yeah.
Okay, great. Next we see a lot of bio-identity managers.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I think we're all more and more concerned about privacy, even the discussions in recent weeks about the My Health records and what we saw with Facebook in recent months. I think there's this sense that we're aware that we need to manage what's in the world around us, about us. In the past, that's been the passwords and the rest, but in the future, it's going to be things like fingerprints, facial recognition technology. In fact, the head of Microsoft's legal department last week started lobbying federal government in the States to regulate facial recognition, because we're getting to a point where you can be anywhere in a crowd and be identified by your face. So there'll be people in the future, whole careers and businesses that are designed to make sure they manage how much of your biometric data is floating around, and perhaps getting back some of the stuff that you don't want around out about you.
Yeah, we're just like Jason Bourne's walking around, aren't we? Map that face.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's all these movies that we look at and go, will that ever happen? Soon we could be seeing holographic educators. Now, we cannot imagine a world where there aren't teachers, right? Because it's such a special relationship. But does it mean that teachers somehow will become extinct? Are we seeing things with TED Talks and that sort of thing now, where you don't have to be in a room to be educated?
Yeah, so for conferences, this is already happening, but it's very expensive. The technology is about $35,000, $40,000 to actually have a hologram beamed into your conference to speak. But what we're seeing at a school level, this was actually tested last year in January in London, a company named Promethean, who actually did...
Oh, that's got movie written all over it, right?
Even the name. They actually did this test where they actually had a hologram come into a classroom and teach. And it was just a test to see if it would be possible. The reality is teachers are going nowhere anytime soon. In fact, you look at the safe jobs, we're talking about, if your kids, where do you want to be? Anything that involves people. We're talking nurses, anything in the creative area, certainly teachers. And so teachers are not going to disappear anytime soon, but the classroom will be augmented by some of this technology in some cool ways.
Right. There could be a smart dust programmer.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Doesn't that do your head in? Even that term like smart dust. So smart dust actually refers to, it's also the colloquial name for microscopic robots. They're called nanobots. And these are already, they exist. And just to get your head around this, so these are actually been released recently and tested by the Arizona State University. And for instance, the one they tested was a microscopic robot that is programmed to go into your bloodstream to identify cancers or tumours. And they've actually got a payload. Your face, you look terrified right now.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
It is amazing. So they actually identify the tumour. They've got a payload of thrombin, which is a blood clotting enzyme. They essentially inject that into the tumour. Within 2 days, the tumour begins to shrink. So we have a whole field of people that are designing these and coding these in the next few years.
Are we talking next few years, or are we talking next generation? Where are we?
Well, we're probably a whole lot closer than most of us would think.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, certainly in that area.
Ethical sourcing officer.
Yeah. I think we're all more and more aware of the need to be mindful of supply chains. Even we've seen in New South Wales the anti-slavery bill passed in the last few weeks. And so the need for companies to be on top of where does everything they produce come from, that's going to be a booming industry and require specialist skills. So we'll probably see people who are just specialists in that within large corporates in the next few years too.
What about human skills like trust? Our kids are going to be responsible for building trust with people, and that's something we can even start to feel drifting away now as we spend more and more of our lives online. Yeah,
certainly. And for businesses, they realise more and more you cannot take trust for granted. You can build a reputation for years or decades and it can go like that. Right. And if we've seen anything from the Banking Royal Commission, it's that in action. So we'll probably see, for instance, Chief Trust Officers become part of the executive team of companies in the next few years. A brand new title. We'll see people have that title, because it's going to be so important for businesses to manage their reputation very, very actively in the years to come.
Alternative currency bankers.
Oh yes, yeah, we've had a lot of calls.
Are we talking Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, yeah, and it's not just Bitcoin; it's much broader than that. But that's the one that we hear most about. So 20% of online currency trades are happening right now using cryptocurrencies of some form. So we're going to see that grow in the next few years, and we're seeing many of the banks already gearing up for that. So we'll probably see the alternative currency banking sector grow massively, probably in the next 10 to 12 years.
Is there one sector, as we say goodbye, that you can see that there's no future in? Do you know what I mean? Like things maybe things to avoid?
Yeah. So anything that is repetitive, that doesn't add value, that's transactional. And so a whole lot of professions that right now are fairly safe, but you think artificial intelligence could impact, even things like, for instance, law. Being a lawyer or an accountant, these are professions where even though you have to be smart to do it, it is in many cases very repetitive transactional stuff, and AI will take over a lot of those functions in the next few years. So again, the jobs to be steering kids toward are the jobs that are high touch, involve creativity, intuition, gut feel, judgment, because that's the stuff that we as humans do best because we've got a soul and computers don't.
Television. A lot of soul in television still. A lot of soul.
If that's the case, it'll be the first to go.
Great to see you. Thank you,
guys.